Hello everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ronald Barron, and I am running for the People's Party of Canada in the upcoming election. I came out a week ago Wednesday and did a little meet and greet here. Some people came, the word didn't really get out that well. But that's just because of the way the world works. But anyway, my biggest thing I'm running for is freedom. Everybody should have the freedom to choose whatever they want and to choose whatever they want to put in their body. And I don't think the government or anybody should be able to tell you otherwise, period. And it's actually protected by 5 sections of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms Act. So it's not legal. They say it is legal, and that's only because it hasn't been proven in court, so technically it's not a lie. Once it goes to the Supreme Court and it gets thrown down, then they can't say that it is legal, which is what I plan on doing if I get elected. Using those charter violations and going directly to the Minister of Justice, taking it right to the Supreme Court, because provincial court doesn't always follow the Constitution. That's why you appeal it. It goes to the Supreme Court, and then they have to rule based upon the Constitution. And I don't think the government has a leg to stand on. So that's what I plan on doing. But as for my personal plans, I plan on also going to the Justice Minister with Section 33 of the Constitution, or is it 36? Maybe it's 36. Slipped my memory now. Anyway, that is the equalization part of the Charter. And that says that the equalization is used to help disparaged places get out of poverty and reduce taxes and give opportunity to all Canadians, equal opportunity. That's clearly not happening in Cape Breton. So Halifax has been ripping us off since 25 years to the tune of about $4.5 billion. So can you imagine what this place will look like with $4.5 billion sink into it? There'd be a lot more jobs. The roads wouldn't be garbage. We wouldn't have no doctors. We wouldn't have to go further to get a bus for our kids to go to school. So all this all plays into it. And the more Halifax can hold us back, the more money they get for equalization. So it's just a vicious cycle that they won't break. I plan on breaking that cycle. And using the Charter, they don't have a leg to stand on with that one either. So in order to do that, though, I have to form a regional government. So I have to get all the MLAs, the chiefs, the mayors, the district councillors, everybody to get on the same page for one voice to Ottawa. And then from there, we can shut down Nova Scotia from treating us the way they do. And we can also shift our health care to our regional government. So then we have control over our own health care, and we don't have to worry about anything Halifax does. They give us our money, we deal with our own health care issues, because we have different issues in Halifax. I think 40% of our population is over 65. Halifax doesn't have that issue. They have young people going there because they have opportunity. There's no opportunity here, all of our young people leave. So we have specific needs that I think a regional government can solve, along with the freedom issue. Freedom is the biggest thing. Without freedom, nothing else matters, because you won't be able to do anything. So the People's Party of Canada, the reason I chose those guys to run with, because I've only been a member of that party for about 5 weeks, so I'm not like an expert on it or anything like that. I had to run because nobody else would. And then when I looked at their platform, I'm like, that's common sense. Everything about it makes sense. There's nothing in there that's too over the top, nothing that's too right wing, nothing that's too left wing. It's just straight down the middle. So I'm like, perfect, I can run for them. And then if they get seats, I can have support in the House if I get elected. Because as an independent, you're 1 seat out of 338. So 1/3 of a percentage point. It's pretty insignificant. But if you can get 20 or 30 seats with you, then it becomes significant. So that's one of the main reasons I ran for the PPC party. And as I entered this journey, it came pretty apparent to me that their freedom in their platform is the only one of its kind of all the parties. The other parties don't care about your freedom. I don't think they care about you at all. They just want to dictate to you. And it's amazing that Canada has been deemed a very inclusive country up until this year. It's no longer inclusive. Now they want to segregate you. Segregation is not good in any society. So, and it's all based on lies. The biggest lie they can tell you is that the vaccine will reduce spread. Well, if you Google on the internet and look up the most vaccinated places in the world and the highest COVID cases, they're the same. So if unvaccinated people are infecting vaccinated people, how come it's not happening in places where there's no vaccine? How come their numbers aren't gone crazy? It doesn't make sense. It's because if you have the vaccine, it's just like anything else. If you drive a four-wheel drive in the wintertime in snow, you're gonna drive faster because you think you're safer, but really you still only have four wheels. Four wheels stop the same as a car that only has two-wheel drive. So if you're vaccinated and you get the virus, you won't show symptoms, but you're still spreading it. So everybody around you will get it. The only people that'll get sick are the unvaccinated. So technically the vaccinated are actually making the unvaccinated sick. So it's kind of a reverse psychology thing there where they're trying to scare the unvaccinated into getting vaccinated. But don't get me wrong. If you think that the vaccine will help you from dying, get the vaccine. If you don't think it'll help you, then don't get the vaccine. It's your choice. It should always be your choice. Because now it's a vaccine, next year what can it be? Maybe they'll ban soft drinks because you know that we don't want to treat your diabetes. Like, come on, it's getting crazy. And people got to start waking up because the information is there. They don't even try to hide it. The CDC in 2020 reported that the average death age for a COVID patient was 83.8. It's pretty high. The average age of a death, or average death age of a patient without COVID-19 was 76.5. So the COVID patients are actually bringing up our life expectancy in Canada. So it doesn't sound too scary when you say that the average age is 83 for someone with COVID and 76.5 without COVID. Because if you look at those numbers, it's not attacking children, it's the very elderly. People in long-term care facilities that are really atrociously run. You know, I've heard stories of like people dying of thirst and hunger in Quebec because everybody was scared to treat them or go see them. There was people, they didn't find them until they were 2 or 3 days dead. Like it's bad. There's a big investigation in Quebec now. So even our death rate is not even accurate. And then how many of these people died with COVID or from COVID? They won't tell you that either, right? And now in the province of Nova Scotia, they won't even test you for COVID unless you're unvaccinated. And now they're saying all these cases are unvaccinated. Of course they are. You're not testing the vaccinated. How would you know, right? And same with here. If you go and get an exposure site, say a Walmart, if you're double vaccinated, you don't have to worry. If you're not double vaccinated, you got to get tested 3 times and you got to isolate for 14 days. So basically you got to go in prison for 14 days. That's insanity, complete insanity. But either way, none of that matters because it violates the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is the fundamental law of Canada, period. There's no exceptions. Well, I shouldn't say that there are exceptions, but they don't apply to this. Because in times of war, they can suspend the Charter. And I think they can for a viral outbreak if it meets a certain criteria. This one did when they were lying, but now they can't keep the lie up, so that's why they don't have a state of emergency anymore. No state of emergency means they have to follow the Charter. So, yeah, if you look at Israel is the first country in the world to have a vaccine passport. You would think, okay, great, they got rid of COVID, right? No, they had their record number of cases the other day at 11,000, and 60% were double vaccinated. The other 40% were a mixture of vaccinated or 1 dose. And now in Israel, they're saying that unless you have 3 doses, you're not fully vaccinated. So they're going to keep moving the goalposts. We're never going to get back to normal unless you vote PPC. PPC, we're saying we got to the numbers that we need. We don't need to be going with this tyranny. You shouldn't have to wear a mask. If masks worked, we wouldn't be in a 4th wave. And if they don't work, why are we wearing them? Doesn't make sense. So we got to use common sense and logic to approach these problems. And yeah, so the COVID thing is a big one. Because I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen COVID, but I actually have personal experience with it. I work up north in Baffin Island, and we actually had an outbreak up there with 300 people. There was 300 people that caught it. I wouldn't say they got sick, because I was all around them. Maybe a handful got sick, nothing major. One guy said that he had hangovers that were worse. And I didn't catch it. I was in quarantine for 18 days, tested 7 times in those 18 days, and then I came home and got tested 4 more times. So 32 days of quarantine total, and I didn't catch it. So I wasted 32 days of my life for nothing. So I think I'm immune, but no one will test me for the antigens or whatever they are. But I got really sick in February, and I've been talking to a lot of people, and they said in February 2020, March 2020, January 2020, they all got sick, really sick, sicker than they ever been in their life. They never thought anything of it at the time. But now, if with the way it's going now, they're saying the vaccine's working. How do you know you're not already immune? Right? The only way you could tell that if they gave you a test. They have the ability to do it. How come they're not doing it? It doesn't make sense to just mass vaccinate everybody that has a chance of dying or getting severely ill from the vaccine when they can just do a simple test and say, yes, you need it. No, you don't. Right?
It's cheaper that way, man.
It's not cheaper to mass vaccinate.
No, I'm saying they find it.
It would be cheaper to do it, what I'm saying, yeah. But they won't do it. And you got to wonder why. Right? Yeah, just keep asking why. No one can give you an answer. And then you say, well, vaccines are not 100% effective. I know this. And they're going to actually injure a certain percentage of people take it. It might be a very, very small percentage. But if you're vaccinating everybody, it means you're going to have those people that get really, really sick or die. It's like a guarantee. But there's no guarantee you're going to get really sick from COVID or die. Your odds of getting COVID are extremely low, especially around here. Like even when we had our height of cases, I think it was like 128. Those people were all in their house isolating. They weren't at Walmart walking around. The government knew who they were, knew where they came from, knew why they had it. Right? But the way they portray it on TV is you can't leave your house because someone outside's walking around with COVID. But if you take 138 people in a municipality with 100,000 people, your odds of catching it are like astronomically low. And then if you catch it, your odds of dying or getting sick are low. So statistically, you're like 1 in a million of actually dying of COVID. But now the vaccine, I think your odds of getting severely injured is a little bit higher than that. I don't know the exact numbers, but I bet it's close. And like I said, you might not catch COVID, but if you get that vaccine, you're getting everything comes with it. Plus, there's no long-term data on it at all. So no long-term data. If in 5 years you die of a stroke or a heart attack, they're not going to say it was a vaccine because they say the vaccine's out of your system in 14 days. Well, yeah, okay, maybe, but if you throw a rock in the water, the rock sinks immediately. But the ripples from that rock go on for hours. You may not be able to see it, but it's there. So just because it made a change in your body's going to make a change too. So I don't trust any of them. Don't trust government. And I don't think most people, well, anybody here probably doesn't trust government. So we need a change. We need someone who's going to stand up in Parliament and ask these questions, right? And demand answers. And if elected, I will also be setting up either a podcast or some type of video chat conference periodically to let everybody know what's going on in Ottawa. Because everything I plan on doing, I'm going to be trying. But if I can't get it and I have roadblocks, I'm going to let you guys know why I can't do it and then go from there. Might be able to put some pressure on.
What if COVID test doesn't exist because it doesn't show any COVID? How they testing? What they testing with? If the COVID test doesn't exist, how do you know you have a COVID?
Well, the PCR test is actually not a COVID test. It is a very, very specific test used for blowing up viruses that are really tiny and you can't see very well under a microscope, making them big enough that you can actually examine them.
Who discovered this test?
I don't remember his name, but he said it's not good to use for a diagnostic tool because if you take dirt on the ground and you blow it up enough times, you'll find gold in it. Doesn't mean there's gold there.
Exactly what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
So depend on the cycle rate, depends on whether or not it's...
How do we know we have a COVID if the test doesn't do the COVID?
Oh, it will tell you if you have it, but the problem is you may have a minute bit of it in there, active, that should never show up anywhere for being a positive case.
20%, but they're jacking up to 45%. So everybody will have a COVID. Even my...
Not only that, when the pandemic first started, if you tested positive today, and then they waited 5 days and tested you again, see if you're positive again, that's 2 positive cases, but it's the same person.
Yeah, but...
So if you have 5 people that test twice, now you have 10 people that have COVID, but there's only really 5.
I would like to know what kind of test they did and how much they actually test for. If 20 or 35 or 45 or 60. I would like to know.
Nova Scotia was 37 and 35.
37 is too much. Then everybody
Yeah, they
has
say
a COVID.
27 to 34, I think is the most you should go, but that's not my field of expertise. I just like asking questions and no one can seem to give me an answer. And that's what scares me. Not only that, the climate change. Now that you can see everything that they're saying with COVID, knowing that that's all crazy and they're blowing that into proportion, what about the climate change? It did the same thing. They've been pushing fear for the last 3 years. And they say that the science is settled on climate change. Well, I disagree. I don't think it is.
How come we missed flu?
Well, guess what test they used to discover the flu? The PCR test.
We didn't have a flu. I don't.
No, because they stopped testing for the flu. Or at least that's what they said. I know my sister's a nurse in the Arctic, and whenever someone comes in sick, there's 2 forms they can fill out. One for a COVID test and one for influenza A, B, C, and I think other coronaviruses. So if you suspect COVID, you do one test. If you don't suspect COVID, you do the other test. But they're ordered to do the COVID test. So that should make you wonder why. Test for everything, right? And the biggest thing I really don't like about this vaccine is because when COVID first came out, anyone who died who tested positive for COVID was a COVID death until they could prove otherwise. But now, with the vaccine, everyone who dies isn't a COVID vaccine death until they can prove otherwise. It's not a COVID death and a COVID vaccine death unless you can prove it is, which is backward thinking. When you're doing an experiment, you want to take all the data you can, then you can start eliminating after you have enough data, right? If the death rate doesn't change over the year, okay, maybe the vaccine had nothing to do with that death. But if at the end of the year your deaths are up 10 times, you got to start asking questions, right? It's just common sense logic. And that's what the party is, common sense. And I find there's not a lot of that nowadays. And all the other parties, if you listen to them, they're talking about all the big things they're going to do, and none of it benefits us. None of it. How's that going to give us jobs? Did you see O'Toole's plan? It's literally like 3 paragraphs, and it's nothing specific. It's like he's going to bring back 1 million jobs that we lost. Okay, well in the last 4 years we bring in 1 million immigrants. That just gives them jobs. What about the jobs for everybody else that are losing because of the industry and because of COVID and all these Dragonius? Did I say that right, Lindsay? No. Draconian. There we go. I'm not a speaker. I'm a millwright, and I'm an introvert, so this is a little weird for me to get up and talk in front of people. So, but sometimes you got to take on roles that you didn't think you'd ever have to take. Yeah. So tomorrow's election day. It's a big election day. I have high hopes, but I reserve my expectations because small party, not a lot of time, not a lot of money. Yeah, I'm going up against like David and Goliath. But I've been contacted by a lot of people who I never thought in a million years would vote for me because they were like die-hard NDP and liberals. And it's just this mandate is too much. They can't do it. They can't get on board with the mandate. Which, perfect, freedom's for everybody. Right? It's not just the people who are unvaccinated, it's for everybody. And freedom that's why people move to Canada. That's why we have immigrants. They want to get away from the tyranny and come to a free country. So that's the biggest thing. We have to make this country free. The second biggest thing is we need to get equalization. Because equalization, the CBRM, the budget is $150 million per year, or that's what it is, 150 and change. And we get about $105 million from taxes, and then we make up the rest of it with other revenues. Plus we get $15 million for equalization from Nova Scotia. Out of that $15 million they give us, they take back 22 because we're a municipality in Nova Scotia. So we start with $7 million deficit from equalization. Tell me that makes sense. But I guess Tim Houston said he was going to double it to 30. Well, that's 2 crumbs instead of 1. Still not what we deserve. You know what I mean? So if we got $540 million, imagine the infrastructure we could build. We got $540 million for the next 4 years. Right? That's like $2 billion. $2 billion will build you a few hospitals, build you a few apartment buildings. It'll be able to defer taxes so we can get some big corporations to move into the industrial park in North Sydney. We can get the railway back from the company in the States that owns it, and then we can fix it up. Maybe, transport goods out and transport goods in, who knows? We could get a container port, we could fix our roads, we could twin the Trans-Canada all the way out of Cape Breton. And we can have some economic growth here. Without equalization, it's going to be very difficult to get any of that. Very difficult. And I asked the other party, I've talked to them personally, they have no interest in fighting for it. None. And some of them say you can't do it. I'm like, you can't do it. Maybe at a provincial level you can't do it, but if you get into federal politics, that's where the magic happens. You're at the end of the line for legality. Right there, the buck stops at the Supreme Court. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm sure I'll meet a few in the next little bit, whether I get elected or not. But yeah, because I got put on unpaid leave. I work in the Arctic, and I wouldn't get vaccinated, so they put me on unpaid leave. That was 5 weeks ago now, I think it was. Yeah. So technically they didn't fire me because I still have a job, but I didn't get laid off, so I can't get EI, and I'm unpaid. So if that isn't coercion, I don't know what is. Right? That's like me saying, you know what, you can leave your house, but you got to give me your life savings. And you're like, well, I can't do that. Well, then I guess you can't leave your house. But you're free to leave whenever you want. It's like awful. Does anyone got any questions?
What was the question about Trudeau was saying you're not gonna own nothing?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Reset.
I say.
Oh,
that
the Great
was-
Reset,
Yeah,
where that you won't own anything, you'll be happy.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know a whole lot about that, so I won't try to speculate. But it does seem like they're following China's model, and China, the next step will be to get the social credit system going. So you got no money, and then you get rewarded based on how good of a citizen you are. So it's supposed to make you want to be a better citizen. Sounds to me like they want a revolution.
Apparently in Saskatchewan, that they're
Yep.
using the
I
social.
saw it, yeah. They're doing that now.
The social credit system?
Well, they're introducing it, I think. They've introduced it.
They've introduced the act of war. That
They did some, or they're trying to pass this crazy bill.
They're putting a mandate in. That's what they're doing now.
What mandate?
Oh, the vaccine mandate. They just came out with that the other day. They went from we're not doing anything to we're doing it the worst.
It's more than that.
Yeah, there's more to that. I saw it too, and I
Yeah.
can't remember the
They
exact
can come
wording.
on your property.
Yeah, they can
your
take you.
home,
Yeah.
They can take your livestock,
They can take your children.
they can take your children, all your assets. Because they
If you don't get
declare that we're
vaccinated,
in
right?
war.
Yeah, if you
It's
don't get
that-
vaccinated.
And the reason why they did it is because they know that they have the power to do it if we're in a war. But I don't see any fighting on our homeland other than words.
No. Well, technically we're at a war, just we haven't declared on anyone because we're at war with ourselves.
Why?
They keep turning us on each other.
Why we were introduced by Trudeau? We don't gonna go back to normal. What he means by we don't gonna go back to normal? What he thinks abnormal is?
I don't know, but he
I would like
did
to
order
know.
400 million doses of the Moderna vaccine
So
and is
he
putting a
thinks-
manufacturing plant in Ontario. That doesn't sound like it's going to be done at one shot or two shots or 10 shots.
That's what he
This is
meant.
going to be like the rest of your life. So if you want to be injected every 6 months for the rest of your life, I guess you could vote for liberals.
Should have put the plant
Or
down here.
conservatives.
Yeah, that's what I'll do, Kelly. I'll get it shipped over to the north side there. At least then we'll benefit from it. We should have the ability to produce our own vaccines, though. I don't think we should force people to take them, but we should definitely have the ability to create them, right? And any medication. Because my party is kind of a nationalist party. We want to get away from globalism because globalism it's poison.
Because she attacked.
They try to make it sound like it's good, but you got to show me who it's good for. It's not good for
Why
us.
would you even make the vaccine if they are not good for us?
Yeah, but some people want it.
You can sell something else like what those drugs, those heavy drugs are.
Oxycontin?
Yeah, sell them. You can take
No, I think we
them.
need less Oxycontin
Why?
in Cape Breton, not more.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because we have addiction problems in Cape Breton. It all stems from money. People not having enough money, not having a job, not having a purpose. Once you have all these things, you can kind of climb out of this place we're in. You're always going to have some addiction. But record addiction comes from poverty. And if you listen to, I don't know if any of you guys watched the debate, I felt attacked because I was the only person there that It was like me versus the world. And I wish I had known. I would have got friends to come and cheer a bit, but I didn't think anything of it. I just thought any crowd would come up, but it showed up to be like 66% liberals and 33% Eddie Orwell fans.
It's always
So I'm like, uh-oh. And I got up there talking, and then Jaime Batiste said, yeah, he said, yeah, Cape Breton is doing better now since 2019. And I said, where? Where? And then the girl beside me said, what are you saying all these small businesses are growing? Small businesses is garbage. You're basically giving, like, one person made more money or two people made more money. If you got a manufacturing plant in that paid $70,000 a year to its employees, you have 300 people lifted out of poverty. That is a benefit. That's something you can see. It's concrete. A couple small businesses doing well, yes, don't get me wrong. I want to see all small businesses do well, but that's not a narrative to show that we're doing better. You know what I mean? Because small business owners, they usually do okay. If they don't, then they don't have a small business. So they're not the people that are hurting the worst. So seeing them get better is good. It's actually great. But it'd be even greater to see people who have no job or who have to work two jobs to only have to work one job and actually have a good life balance, right? And not have to move away. Like, I was fortunate. I did a travel job where I traveled to Baffin Island. It's in the Arctic. It's actually snowed there today. I'm glad I'm here, not there. But yeah, so I traveled 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and I got to stay home, so it was good. But when you're away, it sucks. When you're home, it's good until you're about 3 days before you got to leave again, then it sucks again. So it's a big sacrifice. And then with COVID, I basically had 5 days off every 6 weeks, because other than that, I had to isolate. I had to isolate for 2 weeks. I had 3 weeks of work, and then 5 days to myself, and a day to get ready to go back, and my travel days. So, and before that, I worked at the Coal Piers in Sydney, and I worked 5 days a week. My schedule was every Thursday, and it changed day to day, so that was no way to live either. So I didn't like that. Yeah. Plus, I have a little baby now. I don't like leaving her. She's just getting to know me. It really sucks. You leave for 3 weeks, come back, quarantine for 2, and then you see her for 5 days, and she's like, "Who are you?" Right? Because 3 weeks or 5 weeks for a 6-month-old is a long time. It's not like my 12-year-old is like, "You left?" Like, yeah, I did leave. I was gone for a while. They're just happy as long as the paycheck comes in, right? But yeah, now our party, a lot of people call our party racist because of our immigration policies. And they're so flawed. This is the problem I have. If you use logic, okay, you don't have enough food on your table right now, and you don't have enough beds in your house for the people that you have in your house. You don't have enough toilets. All of a sudden, I double your household. Is your problem getting better or worse? It's getting worse. That's logic. So we don't have the infrastructure to handle the people we have in Canada. The Liberals upped our immigration to 350,000 people per year. So over the past 4 years, that's 1.2 million people. That's the size of Nova Scotia. That's actually bigger than Nova Scotia. It's like Nova Scotia and PEI put together, but you didn't build enough hospitals to give them doctors. You didn't create enough jobs to give them jobs, and there's not enough houses. So what do we have? A housing crisis, a Medicare crisis, or a medical crisis, and then we have a job shortage. Duh. So let's reduce the amount of immigration until we can get to a point where we can handle that many people. And we might not be able to get there because can you imagine building the infrastructure in Nova Scotia, like all of Nova Scotia again in 4 years? That's almost impossible. So when they call us racist, we're not racist, we're logical, right? So you got to get back to logic and think straight. But that's, I think, the reason they like attacking us like that, because once you say racist, everybody kind of puts their back up, right? And then they don't even care what your side of the story is. They really don't. But we're trying to get out there and change people's mindsets, because our platform is not that complex. That's pretty simple. It allows me to do whatever I need to do. If I need to build more apartments, I can build more apartments. If we need childcare for people to go to work, well, I can work on that too. It's not in our platform, so you know what I mean? I'm very, very flexible like that. The other group, the problem with them is they don't understand how money works. NDP especially. They think you can just take as much as you want from the rich and give it to the poor. Problem is the rich don't pay a lot of money. They have lawyers. They have tax loopholes. They have places to put their money so you can't touch it. And you can think all you want, you're going to take it, but you're not getting it. That's how the rich stay rich and the poor stay poor. They know the system. So when they say we're going to tax the richest 1%, or if you make over 20 million a year, no, you're not. They'll just change their address to the United States. They'll get all their capital gains tax sent down to tax-free savings accounts and stuff like that. It's just, I don't even know it all. I'm not a lawyer, a tax lawyer, but if I was, I could tell you it all. And you'll never get that money. So when you say $10 childcare, that sounds great, but all you're doing is taking $35 a day off your pay because it's got to come out in taxes. It's the only way they're going to be able to do it. I'd rather have you working to make enough money that you don't worry about your childcare because you can afford it.
Exactly.
Right?
And then you're having it in your own hands and you feel like
Exactly. And it's like there's also collaborative ways you could solve this problem too, like maybe a co-op daycare or something where mothers that like to stay at home, maybe they can take turns at running a daycare or helping in a
This is what
daycare.
it's all gonna come back to.
You know what I mean?
Living like that.
community.
Yeah, like a community, because
living.
with technology, we've been getting further and further apart instead of coming closer and closer together, right? Like there's people sitting at the same table texting each other.
Yeah.
Like, just lift your head up and say hello.
Yeah.
It's absolute insanity. And I see it at my house all the time, especially with my kids. Like watching YouTube, I'm like, this stuff's gonna rot your brain. And they're like, I'm gonna be a YouTuber when I get older. I'm like, no, you're not. I said, you know what, go put a little hole in the wall over there, get a marble and throw it, see if you can get in that hole. And I said, how many times do you think you'd have to throw it to get in there? He goes, I don't know, 1 million? I'm like, yeah, well, that's your odds of actually becoming a YouTuber. I said, don't get me wrong, you might throw it and get her in first try. Good for you, but the odds are not in your favor. Yeah, so I'm a pretty friendly guy. Like I said, I'm an introvert. Usually, if you see me in the street, you think I'm mad, but that's just the way my face looks all the time. I have a resting angry man. That's what it is. Yeah, because people come up to me and they see the look on their face. I'm like, do they think I'm mad at them? Then I smile and they're good. But yeah, it's easier to not smile than to smile for me. Some people just walk around, they radiate it. It's not me. I don't radiate it. But I figure I'd play some more music for you guys, just to break this up a bit.
So the vote, People's Party of Canada 21 that was trending.
I seen that, number 2.
Yeah.
I was doing vote.
That was me talking to you.
Was it?
Yeah, that was me, Cape Chick.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I keep hashtagging vote PPC. I didn't know there was a 2021. I
Yeah,
wouldn't.
it trended top all day. And it's still there. It's still trend. Vote.
I'm on Twitter big time, but it's vote PPC 2021 was
Oh.
trending like number 1
I,
all day.
I also want to point out these paintings, these lovely paintings, were painted by the lovely Gigi right here. She's an amazing painter. And one is to show our soldiers, because that's what we're fighting for, the freedom that they died for and fought for. And we're in a fireman's club, so what better way than have some firemen here to watch over us. That's absolutely amazing. Best painter I know. I only know one painter, but irregardless, I don't think I could find any better than her.
It was so surprised because I didn't know PPC and I know they exist and I didn't know they have them. So I called him first. I think some older lady, crazy lady.
Yeah, she called me up and said, where's my signs? I'm like, what Polish lady did I piss off? And then she went on and then I'm like, oh, she just wants a sign. Okay. I said, I'll be over later. I think we talked for like 2 hours on the phone, and then when I went to her house, I was there for what, 2 hours, 2.5 hours? Yeah. Really, really nice lady.
Yeah.